When it comes to Skylanders and crossover characters, they have hosted a multitude of different characters from different intellectual properties over the years, but none of these crossover characters can compare to the likes of Spyro and Cinder. The two crossover characters that have been a part of Skylanders since the beginning and baked into the franchise, one of the games actually being named after one of the members of the pair. But these two actually have a history that exists before Skylanders as a franchise existed, in a series of games that might tie into Skylands itself, but sadly, since I don't know what the hell is happening with the Spyro lore, I sadly won't be able to touch upon what potentially came before. But that doesn't mean that these two don't have a rich history in this new universe that they reside in. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Go in-depth on the entire history of both of these Skylanders, not just going over snippets of these histories like I usually do. Now, I'm going to be going over every single piece of information about them that I could possibly find. Books, games, comics, novels. I'll be talking about everything and anything that I can find. And it's surprisingly a lot. This lore goes so deep that I don't even think I'll be able to put it together in one video, so this video may be split into different parts. So grab yourself some popcorn and get yourself comfortable, viewer, because we are about to go into a tale as long as Skylands itself. A tale of two dragons. When it comes to the pair, we surprisingly know very little about the early life of Spyro compared to Cinder. All we really know is that he hails from a rare line of purple dragons from a faraway land, but he is prominently mentioned in ancient scrolls written by old Portal Masters. To be completely honest with you, this is probably the most confusing part about Spyro's history. If his escapades happened before Eon was even a Portal Master, then that means Spyro predates the SWAT force in this timeline, and that creates a couple of big problems. According to my research, Cinder and Spyro don't have a specific age in the Skylanders lore, so I had to look at Spyro lore for a good guess. And what I figured out is that Spyro and Cinder came from the same group of eggs but aren't related. This means that these two are around the same age, and according to my research on Spyro's age in the first game, that means these two are around... What the hell? He's 26! Oh wait, never mind, that's the first Spyro game. In actuality, these two would have been 12 by the time the first Spyro game occurs, and the oldest they ever would be is 15, which is a far cry from the freaking 100 that Spyro would be in this timeline. There's also the fact that if he was doing all of these heroic actions during the time, then why wasn't he recruited into the Skylanders beforehand? We already know that the Skylanders as a group have existed since Giants, so why wouldn't he be recruited? Multiple other Skylanders have been recruited for far less than this, and I think I know why. We're probably just dealing with a different Spyro. Now, after rereading this segment of his lore, I realized that he was only brought up prior in ancient scrolls, and according to my research, things are only considered ancient once they pass the 2,000-year threshold, which means it is very likely that he is either A, a different purple dragon with coincidentally the same name, or B, a reincarnation of that dragon from ancient times. And this is pretty much where things end for his life before Skylanders, as lots of it is undocumented. But at least we know how he joined them. Eon sought him out after he learned of his existence and found him playing in the Summer Forest, offering him to join. But the person we knew the childhood of is Cinder. And to put things lightly, she had it pretty rough. To my surprise, Malefor is not her father at all, but instead, he kidnapped her before she even hatched and brainwashed her, raising Cinder to be his personal servant. Her parents could still be out there wondering what happened to their child and just never have an answer, which is pretty screwed up, but back to her lore. Over the years, she would become a servant to evil, Cinder becoming a sinister dragon who struck terror into the hearts of Malefor's subjects and spread terror far and wide for even more. However, there was still a speck of good hidden somewhere in her heart, which made her internally aware of the evil she was committing, but not acting on it. But she wouldn't really break away from Malefor until she met Spyro. It isn't exactly said what led up to their encounter, but from Cinder's personal retelling of the story, Spyro believed that there was still some sort of good in her. And when he defeated her, it lifted the brainwashing that she was under, and she vowed to fight for good afterwards. But surprisingly, she wouldn't become a Skylander. Once again, this is just another one of those gaps in their history, so this is just speculatory work on my end. But in their bio, it states that after she was freed from Malefor, she would join Spyro on a mission afterwards, and after it was finished, she was seen smiling for the first time in her life. So she either hung around Skylands for a little bit before meeting up with Spyro again, or the two just went on that mission right after. Maybe she got a villain quest, I don't know. But for the moment, that doesn't really matter, because after some time, she would become a Skylander. At first, the other Skylanders active at the time were not 100% on board with it because of one of two reasons. One, she was the Chaos before Chaos and she had terrorized Skylands itself for years, and 2, because she was corrupted by the undead element. And for some reason, during the early years of Skylanders, i.e. Giants and Spyro's adventures, a lot of its populace were scared of anything related to the undead element, but Spyro managed to convince Eon and the others to let her join the group, and Eon would allow it, many of the other Skylanders warming up to her but keeping their distance. But with that out the way, let's spin back around to Spyro for a moment and his first major journey, where he would meet Chaos for the first time in the Machine of Doom, which I will try to summarize as best as I can because holy hell, this is very long. After Spyro and his group of Skylanders, which included Boomer, Gilgrunt, and Eruptor, fought a group of invisible trolls and a spellpunk that were terrorizing a town, they learned from a projection of Chaos that he is after something called a Chattering Key, and the Skylanders would get into a race with Chaos to find it, because if Chaos got his hands on it, he could get access to the Machine of Doom, which was strong enough to destroy the Core of Light by itself. This would lead to the group going through the Forest of Fear, where Spyro came face to face with his worst nightmare, Chaos torturing Eon as he ruled over Skylands. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say that, he was actually being tortured. But he managed to break free his teammates, and get the Chattering Key, only for Chaos to swoop by and reveal that he had Flynn. So they were forced to trade the key in exchange for Flynn's life. Chaos would immediately summon the tomb, but he wouldn't let Flynn go, but instead use him as a hostage to keep Spyro's group away. But that didn't stop them from venturing into the tomb, and after a confrontation with Chaos, Boomer trying to take control of the machine only to fail, the weapon would begin to break apart, Spyro realizing that this entire thing was one elaborate trap all along. Instead of allowing themselves to be buried, the Skylanders would manage to use the Machine of Doom to escape what would have been their grave, Spyro deciding to save Chaos as the group escaped on the arcade war machine that was posing as the Machine of Doom, but Chaos would somehow escape the Skylanders while they weren't looking. They would then meet with Eon and explain what happened, Spyro apologizing to Eon and telling him that he wouldn't let something like this happen again, and although Chaos was stopped, Spyro knew that this was only the beginning. But before we cut things off, there's one more story I have to tell. It's never said exactly when this happens, but there had been an incident involving the Core of Light where Spyro would have to absorb some of the darkness, his scales turning black. If you've been a long-time viewer of the channel, you already know that this is a pretty big problem, as the darkness could corrupt him completely. But Eon would teach Spyro how to control the darkness and suppress it, but he would sometimes let it out whenever he and his friends were in a pickle. But whenever he does this, the other Skylanders do get pretty antsy about it. But with that out the way, this is where this video is going to end. I know that this didn't go over a lot of stuff, but like I said, there's just a lot of stuff going on, and it's a lot. But hopefully I'll have a part 2 up sometime in the future. Like always, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy content like this, show this around so I can grow as a channel, leave some comments down below to make the algorithm happy, and once again, I will see you all in the next one.